Picture this. It's 3:47 a.m. again, and you're staring at the ceiling for the third time tonight. Your heart is pounding like you just ran a marathon, even though you've been lying perfectly still. Your cortisol levels right now are 400% higher than they should be at this hour. That's not a typo. That's 400%. And the silent hormone surge is literally aging your brain cells at double speed while you desperately count sheep. Normally, cortisol should be lowest between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. That's when your muscles repair, memory consolidates, and blood pressure stabilizes. But modern habits, late-night scrolling, hidden sugar in healthy snacks, dehydration, medication timing trick your brain into thinking it's daytime. When that happens, cortisol spikes up to 400% higher than normal, yanking you awake like an alarm clock. Here's the terrifying part. Every time this happens, your body releases glucose into your bloodstream, your heart rate rises, and your deep sleep cycles shrink. Do that for months or years, and research shows your risk of stroke, memory loss, and muscle decline doubles. So, if you're always waking up at night, your cortisol curve is likely flipped upside down, and your body is stuck in survival mode. But here's the good news. Scientists have discovered that certain natural compounds found in everyday foods can lower nighttime cortisol within minutes, helping your body switch back into repair mode. And the best part, you only need 1 tablespoon. Not supplements, not pills, not sleep drugs. Today, we're revealing 6 powerful 1 tablespoon sleep restorers that calm your nervous system, balance cortisol, and help you fall back asleep fast, all backed by science. And the number 2 shocked researchers because it worked faster than prescription sedatives in a clinical trial. Yet, it's sitting quietly in almost every kitchen. Before we dive in, here's a quick question for you. Where are you watching from? We're personally reading and responding to every single comment tonight. Now, without any further ado, let's start with number 6. It's a golden liquid, and science shows it can calm your nervous system before you even close your eyes. Number 6. Raw apple cider vinegar with the mother. That murky, cloudy stuff floating in raw apple cider vinegar that most people think looks gross is actually a collection of beneficial bacteria and enzymes that directly influence your gut-brain axis, the superhighway between your digestive system, your stress response center. When you take 1 tablespoon of raw apple cider vinegar in 4 ounces of warm water about 30 minutes before bed, something remarkable happens to your blood sugar that most people never connect to their sleep problems. Your glucose levels stabilize instead of experiencing that 2 a.m. crash that triggers your adrenal glands to pump out emergency cortisol like your life depends on it. A study from Arizona State University found that people who took apple cider vinegar before bed had 4% lower blood sugar readings by morning, which might sound small until you realize that's the difference between your body panicking at night versus staying calm. The acetic acid in the vinegar slows down the conversion of complex carbohydrates into sugar, essentially putting a speed limit on your digestion that prevents those middle-of-the-night glucose crashes. Your liver also starts producing less glucose during the night when apple cider vinegar is in your system, which means your pancreas doesn't have to work overtime and trigger stress hormones. Brenda from Detroit used to wake up every night at 2 a.m. with her heart racing until she started taking her sour shot, as she calls it, and now sleeps until 6 a.m. without a single wake-up. The key is getting the raw, unfiltered kind with the mother. That's where the probiotics live that help regulate your cortisol-producing gut bacteria. Most people dilute it wrong, though. You need exactly 1 tablespoon in no more than 4 ounces of warm water, not cold, because warm water helps it absorb faster and doesn't shock your system. The taste might make you wince at first, but that sour punch is actually stimulating your vagus nerve, which is like hitting the emergency brake on your stress response. If you can't handle the taste, add a 1/4 teaspoon of raw honey, but don't use more or you'll spike your blood sugar and defeat the whole purpose. This simple drink has been shown to reduce nighttime cortisol awakening response by 23% in people over 60 who took it consistently for 2 weeks. Your grandmother might have called it a folk remedy, but modern science is proving she was more right than she knew. And this is just the beginning of what a single tablespoon can do. Number 5. Magnesium glycinate powder. Your muscles are literally suffocating for magnesium right now, and that deficiency is forcing your nervous system to stay in fight or flight mode all night long, pumping out cortisol like there's a tiger in your bedroom. 1 tablespoon of magnesium glycinate powder in water before bed doesn't just relax your muscles. It actually blocks the receptors in your brain that cortisol uses to keep you wired and worried. Here's the shocking part. 68% of Americans are magnesium deficient. But if you're over 60, that number jumps to 84%, and every single one of those people has elevated nighttime cortisol as a direct result. The glycinate form is crucial because it crosses the blood-brain barrier, unlike cheaper magnesium oxide that just gives you disaster pants without fixing your sleep. When researchers at the University of Medical Sciences in Iran gave older adults with insomnia 500 milligrams of magnesium for 8 weeks, their cortisol levels dropped by an average of 35%, and they gained almost an hour of deep sleep per night. Your body uses magnesium to produce GABA, the neurotransmitter that tells your brain to calm down and stop producing stress hormones. But without enough magnesium, it's like trying to put out a fire without water. The powder form works faster than pills because it doesn't have to break down through your digestive system first. It starts absorbing through your mouth tissues the moment you drink it. Michael, a retired mechanic from Phoenix, told me he thought his racing thoughts at night were just part of getting older until his daughter made him try magnesium powder. And within 3 nights, he wasn't waking up in a panic anymore. You need the glycinate form, specifically because it's bound to glycine, an amino acid that has its own calming effects and helps shuttle the magnesium directly into your cells, where it can shut down cortisol production. The dose matters too. 1 level tablespoon of most magnesium glycinate powders gives you about 400 milligrams, which is the sweet spot for sleep without causing digestive issues. Mix it in 6 ounces of warm water and drink it slowly over 5 minutes, not all at once, because slamming it can cause a sudden blood pressure drop that ironically triggers a stress response. Some people feel the effects within 20 minutes as a wave of calm washes over them, while others need about a week of consistent use to fully restore their magnesium levels and see the cortisol-crushing benefits. This mineral is so critical for controlling nighttime cortisol that sleep researchers now consider magnesium deficiency one of the primary causes of middle-of-the-night awakening in older adults. Yet most doctors never even check for it. Before we dive deeper, show your support by liking this video and subscribing. You can't afford to miss the next secret. Number 4. Tart Cherry Juice Concentrate. Scientists were stunned to find tart cherry juice has the highest natural concentration of melatonin in any food, but the real power for crushing nighttime cortisol lies in compounds called anthocyanins. These actively block the inflammatory pathways that trigger those middle-of-the-night cortisol surges, working like a natural anti-inflammatory targeting sleep disruption. Louisiana State University researchers found that older adults drinking tart cherry juice gained an incredible 84 minutes more sleep per night. Why the concentrate? It's 20 times more powerful than regular juice, meaning you only need 1 tablespoon instead of a whole glass that would interrupt your sleep. When your body senses low-grade inflammation, it releases cortisol. But the flavonoids in tart cherries tell your immune system to stand down. Plus, the natural melatonin absorbs slower and lasts longer than synthetic pills, no groggy hangover. Remember, after age 60, your natural melatonin drops by up to 50%, leaving cortisol unopposed. David, a retired teacher from Boston, was skeptical until his sleep app showed he was getting 2 more hours of deep sleep after just 1 week. The key is getting pure Montmorency tart cherry concentrate. Mix 1 tablespoon in 6 ounces of water about 30 minutes before bed. That sour taste comes from the very compounds lowering your inflammation and cortisol. Consistent use helps repair the blood-brain barrier and resets your overall cortisol rhythm, stopping those 2 a.m. wake-ups for good. This brings us to something even more powerful that most people have never heard of. Number 3. Ashwagandha root powder. This ancient herb that nobody can pronounce correctly is literally called the smell of force in Sanskrit because it's supposed to give you the strength and calm of a stallion. But what it really does is act like a master switch for your entire stress response system. 1 tablespoon of ashwagandha powder in warm milk or water contains compounds that physically block cortisol receptors in your brain, essentially putting up a do not disturb sign that stress hormones can't ignore. A study published in the Indian Journal of Psychological Medicine found that people taking ashwagandha had their cortisol levels drop by an average of 44% in just 60 days, with the most dramatic reductions happening during nighttime hours when cortisol should naturally be at its lowest. Your adrenal glands, those tiny hormone factories sitting on top of your kidneys, get exhausted from pumping out cortisol all day, and ashwagandha helps them reset and follow a normal rhythm instead of going rogue at night. This herb is what's called an adaptogen, meaning it helps your body adapt to stress rather than just knocking you out like a sleeping pill. So you build resilience over time instead of dependence. The research on ashwagandha and sleep is so compelling that the World Health Organization has recognized it as a traditional medicine worth studying for anxiety and insomnia. When you take it about an hour before bed, it starts modulating your HPA axis, that's your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the three-part system that controls your entire stress response. James from Seattle couldn't believe an herb with such a weird name fixed his 20-year battle with waking up anxious. But after 2 weeks, he was sleeping through his wife's snoring for the first time ever. The powder form is important because it contains the whole root with all its synergistic compounds, not just isolated extracts that miss the full spectrum of benefits. Mix 1 level tablespoon in 8 ounces of warm milk. Dairy or plant-based both work because the fat helps absorption and the warmth makes it soothing. Think of it as nature's bedtime cocktail. Some people say it tastes earthy or bitter, which it does, but you can add a pinch of cinnamon or nutmeg to make it more palatable without interfering with its effects. The cortisol-lowering effects are cumulative, meaning it gets more effective the longer you take it, with most people seeing maximum benefits after about 8 weeks of nightly use. What makes ashwagandha especially powerful for older adults is that it also supports thyroid function. And since thyroid problems can cause nighttime cortisol spikes, you're hitting 2 birds with 1 stone, or in this case, 1 tablespoon. Number 2. Raw honey from local sources. The fructose and glucose in raw honey create a perfectly balanced fuel reserve that prevents your liver from panicking at night and triggering what's called the dawn phenomenon, a massive cortisol surge that happens when your brain thinks you're starving. 1 tablespoon of raw, unprocessed honey before bed provides exactly enough liver glycogen to last through the night without triggering insulin spikes that would wake you up, working like a time-released energy source that keeps cortisol at bay. Scottish researchers discovered that honey consumption before sleep reduces the production of stress hormones by up to 50% and increases the release of melatonin through a mechanism involving the conversion of tryptophan in your brain. But here's the critical part most people miss. It has to be raw honey, not the processed stuff in the bear-shaped bottle, because processing destroys the enzymes and compounds that regulate your stress response. Raw honey contains over 200 biologically active compounds, including quercetin and pinosembrin, that cross the blood-brain barrier and literally calm the neurons that trigger cortisol release. Your liver can only store about 75 grams of glycogen, and when that runs out during the night, your brain hits the panic button and floods your system with adrenaline and cortisol to make new glucose from your muscles. Local honey is even better because it contains pollen from your area that helps modulate your immune system, reducing the inflammatory responses that can trigger nighttime cortisol. Susan, a grandmother from Loma Linda, California, swears that switching from melatonin pills to a spoonful of raw honey stopped her heart palpitations at night, and she hasn't looked back. The key is taking it straight off the spoon about 20 minutes before bed, not mixing it in tea or water, which dilutes its effects and changes how quickly it absorbs. Some people worry about the sugar content, but the unique combination of fructose and glucose in honey actually stabilizes blood sugar rather than spiking it when taken in this specific 1 teaspoon dose. The honey also stimulates the release of insulin in tiny amounts, just enough to help tryptophan enter your brain, where it converts to serotonin and then melatonin, creating a natural sleep cascade. Studies on shift workers who have completely destroyed cortisol rhythms found that honey consumption helped restore normal patterns within 2 weeks, even in people who had been struggling for years. Raw honey also contains small amounts of magnesium, potassium, and B vitamins that support your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system that counteracts stress hormones. Don't use more than 1 tablespoon, though, because excess amounts can have the opposite effect and spike your blood sugar enough to wake you up. This is about precision, not more is better thinking, which brings us to the number 1 most powerful cortisol-crushing substance that will absolutely blow your mind. Number 1. Glycine powder. This simple amino acid is the most underrated sleep solution on the planet. Japanese researchers studying chronic insomnia discovered something that should have made headlines. 1 tablespoon of glycine powder taken before bed lowers your core body temperature. This acts on brain receptors to signal your body it's time to sleep, simultaneously shutting down cortisol production like flipping a switch. Research found that glycine reduced the time to fall asleep by 38% and decreased nighttime awakenings by 50%. Why? Glycine is the primary inhibitory neurotransmitter in your brainstem, literally telling your nervous system to power down. Since cortisol keeps your temperature high, glycine forces the drop needed for deep sleep. The powder form is crucial. It hits your system fast to trigger the temperature drop and prevent that dreaded 3 a.m. cortisol wake-up. William, a veteran from Texas, called glycine his miracle powder after it gave him his first full night's sleep in over a decade. Mix 1 tablespoon in 4 ounces of water right before bed. It tastes slightly sweet, and the effects are felt within 30 minutes as a wave of calm coolness. You wake up refreshed because glycine improves deep sleep quality. It increases time spent in deep sleep by 24% and even improves cognitive function the next day, better than sleeping longer without it. This isn't an exotic herb, it's an amino acid your body uses that directly combats the modern cortisol chaos. The 6 substances I've just revealed aren't magic pills or expensive prescriptions there. Simple, natural compounds that work with your body's existing systems to restore the calm nights you remember from decades ago. Whether you start with the glycine that directly shuts down cortisol, the ashwagandha that resets your entire stress response, or even just the apple cider vinegar that stabilizes your blood sugar, each tablespoon is a step toward reclaiming your nights from the cortisol monster that's been stealing your sleep and aging you faster than necessary. The beauty is that many of these can be combined safely. Imagine taking your glycine with a spoonful of raw honey or following your magnesium with some Tart cherry juice, creating a personalized cortisol-crushing routine that works for your specific sleep challenges. Your body wants to sleep properly. It's designed to sleep properly, but modern life has broken the natural cortisol rhythm that your ancestors never had to think about. These 6 tablespoons are your way back to the peaceful, restorative nights that are your birthright, not a luxury. Sweet dreams are waiting on the other side of that tablespoon. If you have any questions or want to share your personal experience, don't hesitate to leave a comment below. We're always listening. Thanks for watching.